Hey, welcome to my home. My name's Richard Cleveland, and tonight, what we are doing, I'm here in my home studio. Again, welcome. We are going to have a look at the Wonder Woman from Malic's 3 Design, or Sergio Malic. Now, this is one that I've kind of been painting on the road. So when we got back from our last trip, she had some damage to her, and by no means was I finished painting her. So what we're going to do tonight is we are going to fix up those areas. We're going to give her a new base coat of skin, and then we will move on to doing some of the other stuff that we need to do with her. So let's get started. Let's just dive right in, and we'll take a look at the paint that we're going to use. I'll just move to my overhead here, and there we go, down in the corner. So here we have her on the table. We used my base skin, which you guys have seen me use a few times now. Now this is getting quite thick, so I'm just going to stand her up over here for a second and bring my palette in a little bit closer. We're going to grab some paint, make sure that we've got our Liquitex open as well. We're going to need some of that. We are going to need a little cup. Now, I use Flow Aid quite a bit. You guys have seen me use this stuff before. Let me see if I can, without spilling any. So this is Flow Aid, and what I like to do is I like to put a little bit in a cup. That way I'm not contaminating what's in the bottle. So I've got a little bit of Flow Aid. That's all I'm really going to need for tonight. I've got a cup of water here, as you can see, and that's for cleaning my brushes. I've got my towel. We've got our base coat. Let's get a brush. We're going to add a couple of other colors into this. We're going to be using basic skin tone from Vallejo or Vallejo. We are also going to be using, I think we're going to use this one as well, which is, well, that's just basic skin tone as well. So it's the same color. There's another skin tone in here that I wanted to use. There's brown sand. I know I've got another one here somewhere. It might be this one here. Oh, that's salmon rose. There it is, light flesh. We're going to use light flesh as well. So we're going to put all those together. We'll grab some paint. And this paint's quite thick. We're just going to get some into our palette here. We've got a lot to paint, so we're going to go ahead and get her started right away. So we're gonna start with this base coat. I'm gonna just grab a little bit of flow enhancer and just kind of mix it in there a little bit. And there we go. I don't want it too thin, and I don't want it too thick. So I'm gonna grab a little bit of water as well. And there we go. That seems like it's got a nice consistency. Yep, that's exactly what I'm looking for. So just kind of scrape my brush out here a little bit. Now I can also use that later on as well when I start adding. Get a little bit on my brush here, and I'll just start filling in some of these areas. Now it is kind of thin, so I will come back, and I'm going to do the whole skin texture so it all matches at the end. We're just going to continue on here and just go right up and try and get all those areas. Now, if you go over onto the areas that you've painted already, no big deal. All we did was we sanded down the areas that were a little rough, and now we're just going to go over them with this flesh color. And as we build it up, these little areas here that you can see, I don't know how well you can see that. These little areas right here, they're going to get covered up. We're not adding any other color to this right now. We're just getting this basic skin tone on. And the nice thing about this is when this stuff dries is it kind of flattens itself out. So, but you can go back and just tidy up your paint strokes a little bit. Get up right in there. Get up into all those little areas. And all we're trying to do right here is just even out the skin tone. All we're trying to do right now. Get a base coat on onto this. Now this has had a base coat. But again, like I said, because we had some of those areas and because we weren't finished with her, doing this now is so much easier. I don't want to mix up too much paint. If I need more paint, I'll just go ahead and mix it up. But I don't really need a lot here. So I've cleaned up that one leg as good as I'm going to at the moment. I want all my brush strokes to kind of run the same way. So when I come back later, all I'm doing now is much like you would do with the paint roller, is I'm just kind of evening out all those brush strokes. And we'll get the rest for done down here in this part of the leg. Oh, look at that. There's a little spot right there. Right there. I don't know how well that's going to show up on the camera. But let's go ahead and we'll just knock that out of there. Looks like there's a little bit of leftover hair. So again, we're just going to sand it out. And that's the beautiful part of this, is that you can come back and sand out little bits like that. And just knock them down. And just get rid of them. There we go. So now I'm just going to paint the rest of that. And that way this whole leg matches. Now, my flesh color, my custom mix flesh color, is, again, sort of my own recipe. And I've talked about this many times before. This is just a straight mix of a raw umber, or pardon me, raw sienna, burnt sienna, and white. And that's all it is. And it's equal parts. So now you can see the difference between these two legs. This one's a little bit darker. This one's not quite so much. But we had some areas we wanted to cover up, so we'll go ahead and I'm going to let that leg dry before I come back and work on that again, because I really want to get that area right there covered up. And I'll just put a little bit more paint in there, and slowly it'll cover it up. Let's go up and do her face while we're at it. I'll bring up my focus here on this camera, so you guys can get a little bit better look at what's going on. There we go. There we go. Now you can see what's happening. Really got to get a monitor moved over here. So I don't want to touch this leg, so I'm just going to get in and start working on the face here a little bit. We'll just even out the color in the face. And all we're going to do is just fill all that in, because there's little bumps and there's little areas that we had to fix on the face. We had to sand some stuff out, and that's what we did. We just went ahead and sanded it out. And again, we'll come back and fix all of that up. And again, you don't want to get too many strokes. You don't want those paint strokes to show through. So we're trying to avoid that as best we can. This just, like I said, this is just kind of evening out her skin tone now. And then we'll come back and, of course, we'll start to fill in some of those other areas. Come down and do the neck. Get right in the back there and bring that forward. Again, we're not trying to put so much paint on that we can't see what's going on. All we're really doing here is we're just evening out that skin tone. And we'll get down in there onto her chest, and we got a little spot right there we're going to have to cover up. So that's what that up. Get down into all the cracks and crevices here. Again, we're just looking for some nice even coverage. That's what we're going for here. We're not going for anything other than the even coverage. If we've got areas that we have to go back and take a look at, we will. And I'm not worried about getting any on the hair at this point because we're going to be repainting that hair anyway. Okay. So now we're just going to continue on and go down the shoulder. And you can use a wide brush on this. You can use a fine brush on this. It really doesn't matter. If you use a wider brush, however, you are going to get better coverage. Get right up in there under her underarm. Now, we originally sprayed this. We, with the color that we had on there, we originally sprayed it. And it did look good. It was nice and flat. But this now allows us to come back and put on a base coat. Because we weren't finished painting her skin anyway, we really hadn't gotten that far. It really wasn't that bad. Now, getting in underneath that arm there can be a bit tricky. So you can see we are getting there. Let's bring her a little closer. You can see there's a definite tonal difference between here and here. And all we're doing now is we're just laying down. And you'll know that it's wet because it's kind of shiny. And again, we'll come back and we'll fill in spots that we have. So maybe what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put a little bit more paint onto my palette here. I could have actually gotten away with a lot more paint on my palette than I have there right now. So that's what I'm going to do is I'm going to just grab some more of this, grab a little bit, this is quite thick. All I'm doing is just grabbing and putting that onto the palette. And we'll get some of this, some of that in there. Diana, your sword is getting in my way. There we go. A little bit of flow enhancer. I want to make sure that is all in there. Grab a little bit of water. Just thin it out just a little bit. It just helps it flow a little bit better, that's all. There we go. Now, if you think your brush is getting too gloopy, then I would say go ahead and just give it a good cleaning. And you can do that just by putting it in the water and then cleaning it up. Just get the excess water out. There we go. So now we've got our brushes ready to go. Let's grab some of that paint and keep going on Diana's arm here. We'll get all those areas that we missed, that we find it difficult to get to with the airbrush. And again, we're just all bringing our brush strokes all in the same direction. All we're doing is just bringing them all down in the same direction. Do a little bit thicker right there. I haven't changed the shade of this paint at all. I got a little bit too much there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring it around to the other side and try not to touch her legs with my wet hands. You can see right here, I'm just going to get her shoulder with some of this excess paint that I've got. There we go. And because I've made it a little thinner, it's going to level itself out a little bit. And that's actually a good thing. So if you get a little bit too much paint on your brush, don't be afraid of that. Because you can always go back and take it off. think we've got that arm, and we'll leave the hands for last. Let's go back over to this side. Kind of get in there. There's areas that I couldn't reach with the airbrush, which using the brush now is helping me to get into those areas that I missed with the airbrush. So because we did a little bit of sanding there, we're going to get a little bit more paint on our brush, and we're going to continue down and just clean all that. Doing tutorials like this is kind of new to me on when we're doing them from my home. And doing a character like this, who is really more of a comic book character than, a movie character, even though the Wonder Woman movie was amazing. You can take your own sort of license with it. And really make it your own. And I encourage new painters to do that. I've been painting for a long time, so it comes kind of pretty natural to me. And now just even that out. There we go. Now she looks like she's pretty tanned right now. And for all intent and purposes, she is. We're just going to cover up that little spot. And there's another little spot back here we're going to cover up. Start bringing our paint in and just dabbing it. Dab, 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 just like so. Just kind of blend in those edges. Blend in the edge. All right, so now we got one more leg to do, and then we'll go back and we'll do her hands. So we'll go down and start with this leg. This leg wasn't bad, but we want to make everything match. So when we go to put on our other colors and we start to drop in the different shades, which we're going to start doing here pretty soon, you guys take your time with it. Don't rush it. I still take my time and don't move too fast sometimes. Just because, this is a 3D printed model. This is not, a model you can go and buy in the store. Having a 3D printed model has its own challenges, and we've talked about that a couple of times. And those challenges can be part of the paint process. Get up in there, around her buttocks. I'm holding her kind of high for you guys to see, so normally I wouldn't hold it this high. I would just have it down lower for myself, but I want you guys to be able to see. Maybe I'll bring that focus down again. There we go. It makes it a little bit more comfortable for me. And if the paint looks a little streaky, that's okay, because we're going to come back and fix all that. You're never even going to see that. So it might look a little streaky at first. We have a really good foundation to work with here because we are using, we used a nice airbrushed flat base coat. So that really worked out well for us. So now that we've got that all pretty much done, we got one little part back here on the back of her calf, just below the knee. Get in there and clean that up. And don't be afraid to move that paint around. Move it around, get it to where you need it to go. This is all going to level out the skin tone. You can also tell as it dries, because we're using a flow enhancer and that sort of thing, it's going to dry smoother than it would normally. So there we go. I'm going to get in and fix that up again. Add a little bit more there. The arms are looking okay. They are looking all right. Get a little spot on the back of one of her arms that we're going to just add a little bit more paint to. We're just going to build it up in that area till, you know, we're happy with it. And you can go around at this stage and see where you've got any high spots in paint and just kind of get them out of there. Go ahead and just add a little bit more to this leg. Kind of even it out a little bit more. And you'll know as this dries, because of the undercolor, where your problems are. All right, let's paint up her hands. Get those done. Get her fingers all done up. You don't have to have this really thin like a wash when you first put it on. You can actually have a little thicker paint. I wouldn't take it directly out of the bottle like that, but that's just me. We got most of her hands done. We're just going to get in there, get into the inside portion of her hand. It's difficult sometimes when you have a model like this because, you know, it's all assembled and put together, so it can be kind of tricky getting into some of the areas. But you'll be able to see them. See, like underneath the arm here, behind the hair. Got a spot right back there. A spot right in there. I mean, these little spots you're never going to see at the end of the day, but I know they're there, so I want to fill them in a little bit. All right, let's go and do this hand. Blend that out. And this is just how you can repair your models. I mean, nothing is set in stone when you're building models, especially when you're painting them. Nothing's set in stone. If you get a little nick in the paint, it's just a matter of going in, sanding it out, and touching it up. And that's all we're really doing here right now is we're just touching it up, trying to get that look that we had previous and give us a nice base coat to start with. And now we can go in and use a little bit of paint on our brush and just start to touch up those areas like the nose and that cheek a little bit and that breast piece right there. Now we've got some paint on here. It's easy. Oh, I just went and touched your fingers. Normally I wear a pair of gloves doing this, but you know what, for the sake of today, I'm not really too worried about it. And this is the worst offender here, so we're just going to put in a little bit more and then blend it in. Eventually it'll start to disappear. A little bit on our elbow there. Work in some of these, work out some of the streaks. A little bit on the inside of this arm that we didn't get. I'm going to try and get that. There we go. There we go. A little bit under the chin we missed. And how I could tell that is because there's just little slight variations in the color. I can always see where I missed and come back, clean it up. And again, I touched it where I shouldn't have. I'm going to get a little bit more material in there. And just dab that in. Work that. And we'll come back and we'll deal with that in a little bit. And her face is looking much better now. Just going to get a couple areas there where we know that we hit it with the sandpaper. And I'm thinking that's looking pretty good. A little bit on this arm here. Now you can certainly go ahead and speed up the drying time on some of this. And I think we're going to probably do that. So we'll just set her back there for a second. And what I normally do is let me just put that in the water for a few minutes. I will take the hair dryer, which I have over here. I'll just come along and I will hit it with the hair dryer. Now that I've hit it with the hairdryer, I can come back, get some of that extra moisture out of my brush. There we go. Grab a little bit of that paint. Now we can come back and we can touch up some of those areas like here on the leg. When we start dry brushing, all of these areas are going to disappear anyway. It's going to look quite natural when we're done. This is a good time to go back and check any areas you might have missed as well. And we're just going to touch up that face and just a couple of little spots. You see that divot that we had here on the breast is just about gone. And the one on the leg here is just about gone as well. And again, we can come back and we just hit it with our hair dryer. And we'll keep doing that. It's like a rinse and repeat. And I know this is kind of bothersome, but So as you can see, those spots are starting to disappear now. You can very faintly see them. Show up more on camera than they do down there. They show up more on camera than they actually do on the figure itself. Again, we'll just blend in. That's all we're doing is just blending in. Hit this spot again. Now that's the spot that's going to be the toughest right there, because we've dug into that area. Now I didn't reprime it. I could have gone back and reprimed it, but I didn't. And I didn't do that for a reason, because if I reprimed it, I would have to spot prime, and that's pretty tough when you're dealing with figures like this. We got nothing on the back of the leg that's too heavy, so we're good. Got a little something on my brush though. So I think we're just about there. We got a couple little areas maybe to touch up. Right here on the arm, we've got some right there, and there. This is where we get to see all of our flaws. There we go. That just kind of blends in better. And that is just about gone now. I think I'm pretty happy with that. Front of the leg just needs a little bit more touch up right there. And there we go. So that's done now. Now we're going to clean our brush. We're going to hit her one more time with the hair dryer just to set those spots. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. Now we can go ahead and start mixing up our other colors. So we're going to grab a little bit more of the base flesh, which we're using a lot of. And that's why I mix up such a big one. I want to grab a couple little dabs of that, put that into the palette. And I'm going to lighten it up a little bit with the basic skin tone. So we're going to shake that up. See how that's flowing. Ooh, that's flowing really well. Oh, I think this has a little bit much in it. So we've got our basic skin tone in our palette. Take that out of there. Take that out of there. And we want this kind of thick. So you can see we've got those colors in our palette. We're just going to mix them up. Just get a lighter shade. There we go. Nice light shade there. And because we don't want to change the color too drastically, we're going to leave it quite thick. There we go. Get that all mixed up in our palette. Give our brush a nice cleaning. I'm not going to add any water to this. And because I'm just going to dry brush now, all I want to do is I want to get most of the water, not all of the water, out of my brush. And I'm using a number 8 brush here. By getting the water out, you can see that, it doesn't leave any residue. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some on my brush, and I'm just going to, there we go. I'm going to just start building up that color on her face. I'm just dry brushing. This is my first dry brush, and we are going to dry brush a whole bunch in here. All we're trying to do now is just start to set some of that color in her face. A little bit there. Because although she's an Amazon, she's not going to be totally tan. You see that the face is already starting to lighten. Down on the neck. Just kind of setting the color in here and give us something to start working with. We'll come back and, of course, we'll change some of those tonal highlights later on. We'll get them a little brighter and so on and so forth. For now, we're just going to start building up that color. Better. We'll come back and we'll add some other color to her as we go through. Now, I hope I can get her to a point where I can see what I'm doing and you guys can see what I'm doing. So I'm just dry brushing here over that undertone. That flesh tone that we put on earlier. Now, this is Princess Diana. Princess Themyscira. We got to try and make her look the best that we can. And we're just going to keep going. Build up that color. And really start to work that skin tone. Then we're going to come back and we are going to do some areas of her skin with a little bit of a red texture, just like she's been out in the sun, because, she isn't a vampire. Although some people might think she is. Dry brush. And keep following contours of her body here. Back my hand, just wipe off some of the excess. And this is by no means the end of the dry brushing. We're going to do a lot of dry brushing so that her collarbone sticks out. We can see all of that detail. Now, again, this was wonderfully sculpted by Sergiu Malic of Malic3design.com. We're just setting the color, just getting her all set up for how we want her to look. You can see there's definite difference now between the top part of her skin and the bottom part of her skin. And we're just going to keep going. Get into all those areas that we need to get into. Work them down. Now, she doesn't have a lot of muscle texture on her, so you would think she would because she's an Amazon, but she doesn't. And why we dry brush is so that we can bring out some of the natural highlights and lower tonal values, or shadows in this case. Natural shadows on the figure itself. And you can see I'm not putting a whole lot of paint on my brush. A couple of reasons for that is if I make a mistake, I can always come back and clean it up later. And that's the beauty of dry brushing, is that you're not locked into it. You can always come back and fix it up or add in some of that darker color again. And we are going to dry brush some of that dark color over it again as well, so you guys are aware. And as things go, you can, that's not the shot that everybody wanted, but the shot you're getting right now. So we're just going to continue dry brushing, just getting those highlighted areas naturally done. And because the print has some texture to it, it's going to aid us in giving her a realistic paint job because of the texture that's in the print itself. So it's going to aid some of that realistic texture that we're looking for. So you can see there's a definite difference between the top part of her body and the bottom part of her body. And as we go through, you're going to see the changes that we make in the actual sculpture. And we're going to add, just some minor areas here and there for blush and things like that. Let's do the hands. We'll get the hands all done. Again, we have to get into the palm area. So we're going to just get back in here. We got some areas back here that we need to get at too, under the underarm. Use the back of my hand here. I'm running out of space. That's okay. We got some areas in here that we want to tackle. Same thing on this side. We want to tackle some of that as well. Let me just go to the back of my hand here and get off some of that. definitely starting to come together in terms of the tonal values in her body. And that's the main thing. And that's what you want to do. So we're going to continue on down on the legs here. We're just going to use up what we have here paint-wise. I probably should have cleaned my palette ahead of time. Wait, there we go. And we'll just start working our way down here on her legs. So we're hitting the highlights on the tops of her legs right now. You can see that. Looking a little streaky right at the moment, but we'll even that all out. Now the leg is starting to come together. If we need to come back and dry brush some of our other color over, we can. Find some of that dark color. It'll also help take away some of your brush strokes. You get a little bit too much paint on your brush like I've got right now. Come back and we'll just move all of this paint down to where we need it right there. There it is in our palette. Clean that brush again. Every once in a while, I like to go back and just clean my brush just to get out any excess paint. It really helps. And when you do that, it just makes for a cleaner job. Now I've got a little bit of water still on here, so I can come back and I can clean that up. And again, if I don't like it because it became too streaky like it just did, I can go back, grab some of this color because we're not too far along now, and just put some of that in my palette over here on this side. Close that up. I don't like to leave my paints open because they tend to dry out. So I don't leave my paints open. I will try and clean them off as best I can. It's starting to look a little ratty, so we'll just flip that over. I'm going to try and get as much water out of there as I can. And come back, and there we go. So where I made a mistake here, now I can come back and just come back and paint over it. And it won't affect anything. Just paint over it. If you make a mistake, all part of the process. All I'm doing is I'm just painting over what I just did because I don't like it. And again, that's all just part of the process. Don't worry about making mistakes because that's all part of it. And, you know, when you make a mistake, it's not the end of the world. And as you can see here, I feel like I didn't do it justice. So I'm going to go back and I'm just going to paint over it. And because I didn't thin down the paint this time, I kept the paint actually quite thick this time. It's going to cover over really, really nice. And it's not going to show any of those brush strokes. And I'll just let that dry. In the meantime, I'll move on to maybe doing the other leg. In all those areas that I didn't like what I did. So right around here, get into that area. I'm not used to having an overhead camera, so you have to bear with me. There we go. Area I missed there. I might as well cover that up now. Okay. So that leg has now been repainted. And you see it matches pretty much. The other side, it's a little glossy because it's still got color in it. Clean out that brush. Again, we'll dry it off. I know you're looking at the top of her head, and it's probably not the most attractive. And we'll get some of that color. We'll do the other hand. And I like what's going on the shoulders here. I know on the camera, she probably looks a little pale, but again, we're not really done what we're doing with her. So we are going to add some more highlights to her. We're going to add some more shadows to her and go from there. Let's move on to the other leg here. Just very lightly. You don't need a very heavy hand to do this. You do this very, very lightly. The lighter you are, try and use long strokes if you can. Because longer strokes in a lighter hand makes for a better dry brush. And again, if you can, try and keep it all in one direction. Because that also is going to make things much easier on you. That's way too. Long strokes. Going right down to the back of her knee. And it's just lightening it, giving it enough of a tonal difference that, I know it seems like a waste of paint, but it really isn't. Almost there. And that leg kind of matches the rest of her body. See? That leg now kind of matches the rest of her body. So we're going to wait for that side to dry. Actually, let's speed it up, and that way we can get it done. You'll know it's time to stop painting when your paint starts to get a little sticky. I'm running out of paint here really quickly. So get the excess off there and just work that down. Again, I'm not using a heavy hand, and I'm trying to use long, broad strokes. Build it up slowly. Don't be in a rush to build up that color. You see now both those legs are starting to match. Again, on the back of my hand. Again, take your time. You can build up the color slowly. You don't have to be in a rush. I find when people are painting, that's, it's instant gratification. Everybody wants to see that piece when it's done. And as much as I like instant gratification as well, this is a process that takes time. Much like waiting for your print to finish, this is a process that takes time. And you'll discover that as you learn more about painting and dry brushing, and as I teach you more and as I learn more, get in those areas right around there. One more piece to do, and then I think we're going to call it. I think we're almost at the end of our time for today. There we go. Let's get that piece done. Back of the calf. I don't know why I've got a hair there. There we go. Get rid of it. So when we come back next time, we are going to finish this lovely lady. And we're going to work some more on the skin tone. Eventually, we'll get into working on the eyes. And we'll pick out some of that detail for you. So we're going to set her aside, put that in the water for now. Let's go back to our regular camera. So where we left off, we've fixed up the skin. We gave it a base coat. We started to bring in some highlights. When we meet next, we are going to talk a little bit more about bringing more of that detail out in the skin. We are going to do some flecking or flicking as we build up the colors of skin. And we'll show you how we do some of the other areas. So until next time, my friends, thank you for watching. And first and foremost, we got a few people to thank. First, I want to thank all of my Patreons for all of their support of the channel, and love having you guys here. And I can't thank you enough for all of your support. If you want to become a Patreon, please go to patreon.com/thefirstlayer and sign up for one of our levels. If you're at the $5 level, you will get to see more in-depth painting tutorials. With Wonder Woman here, we just did some repair. Now I'm going to go ahead and start working on some more of the look of her, and we'll kind of skip through and get you to different points. But if you are a Patreon and you're at the $5 level, you will see the current project that we're working on, and I take you through step by step, brushstroke for brushstroke, and I tell you all the paints that I'm using. So if you want to be a part of that, go to patreon.com/thefirstlayer. And if you just like what you saw today and you want to buy me a coffee, you can always go to buymeacoffee.com/thefirstlayer and buy me a coffee. All of the money goes into the same pool, and at the end of the day, it all goes to helping out with supplies and things like that, getting new models for you guys that we're painting. The other thing I want to point out is we have a contest going on right now. If you're part of our Facebook group, you'll know that I put the scan of my head as an STL in the file section of our Facebook group. And you can download that. And at the end of July, we are going to pick a winner. And that winner is going to get a custom painted model by me. It'll be my choice what model they get. And so that's a pretty good prize. It'll be signed on the bottom as well, and you will have one of my pieces and one of the beautiful sculptures that I get online from some very, very talented artists. So if you want to be a part of that, you know how to get in contact for that contest. We're going to post all the rules fairly soon. Right now, though, I'm going to go ahead and start finishing her. I want to thank Spool 3D for all of their help. Spool 3D, print it right, print it with Spool 3D. They have everything that you need, from printers to filaments to all the accessories to get you going in 3D printing. So check them out today at spool3d.ca. Remember, print it right, print it with spool3d.ca. Again, thank you, my friends, for joining me on this episode of The First Layer, and I will see you next time. And remember that the first layer is always your foundation to a great print and a great paint. Till next time, take care.